Dr. Amanda Allison is an associate professor of art education at Texas Christian University. Go Frogs. She regularly works in the community alongside her TCU students, providing art experiences for people who might not otherwise have the opportunity to create art. Welcome. We have a panel of esteemed colleagues here, so I'm going to hand it over, and we're just going to let them introduce themselves. So it's all yours.
Great. Can you hear me? This is my worst nightmare starting us off, but it's fine because we're all together. I'm Whitney McLean, and I'm a licensed professional counselor and a board-certified art therapist, and I work at the Art Station, a nonprofit community-based mental health agency right here in the near South Side, and I also represent Arts Fort Worth. I get to sit on their board and our board, and I'm going to pass it on.
Hi, I am Tracy Clyburn, and I work with KWC Performing Arts, home of the Kids Who Care touring company. We've been over in the Cultural District in the Arts Fort Worth building it'll be 35 years next year. We do teach kids how to sing and dance and act, but what we're really doing is teaching them how to be incredible human beings. We also do a lot of entrepreneurial leadership is woven into everything we do. We just really want our kids to be good humans, and so that's what we're doing over there.
Hi, my name is Sarah Gay. I'm a professional actor and teacher and artist. I'm the education manager at Stage West, where we have a lot of adult programs and some kids programs as well. But I'm here today to talk about my work with TCU, where I teach an intergenerational music class for families and children and seniors at James L. West Center for Dementia Care.
Hi friends, I am Allie Rogers-Andreen, and I am an artist and also the manager of family programs at the Amon Carter Museum of American Art. And so I oversee and facilitate programs and resources for children ages 0 on up and their grown-ups. And so I like we are also learning how to be humans together.
All right, so are we ready to get started? I am really glad to be here with you all. I think this panel has just been expertly chosen by Steer Fort Worth because all of you have so many things in common, and all of you bring an array of experiences that are going to highlight our understandings of the arts, the necessity of the arts, blocks to what might be preventing the arts from permeating Fort Worth. But one thing I noticed when I was, I guess, creeping all of you all on the internet or looking up your biographies, is that each one of you has a deft understanding of human development. That's part of each of your professions. That's part of each of your jobs. You understand how we grow and progress as human beings from birth until elderly. And the other thing that I noticed is that each of you don't really have to be asked why the arts are so important. You live it, and you've invested your lives in a profession that is not really just a profession, and it's an expression of your identity and of your belief system. There's a writer named Eric Booth who's a theater educator, and he says in his book, The Work of Art, when people dig into the work of art, they no longer have to ask about its value because they know. And I think that's what you'll find with each one of our panelists today, that you've always heard the term, you often heard it, preaching to the choir. Each one of these panelists knows about the efficacy of arts education, and you're going to understand that. But more importantly, you're going to understand how to apply the necessity of arts education in your specific situations when you hear their stories. So the first thing that I'd like to start off with is the idea that as professionals, no matter how long you're in a career, we're actually social scientists. We are observing the people with whom we work, the conditions, and we're drawing conclusions all along the way about our profession, about what it does, its efficacy, et cetera. So I want to open this up for the entire panel, and we don't have to go one person at a time, just whoever would like to speak. What have you seen as just a verifiable outcome of the arts in your specific profession? Something that You wouldn't even have to ask someone. They would just know this is what the arts do in the specific realm or the sphere of influence that I have. What's a verifiable outcome in your particular field of the arts?
Okay, well, I will start, and I think I have half an idea that will become a full idea by the time I finish talking. It is that, in my experience, art creates families, tight-knit families. Art is quality time spent together, optional quality time. So the people that show up to, in my case, museums, to learn together and grow together, they are seeking opportunities to broaden their horizons, and in so doing, they're kind of digging in a little deeper into life, which is exciting. And they are learning to respect the youngest members of their family and the knowledge that they bring to the table, and at the same time, learning how to communicate with them and collaborate with them. So I guess it is verifiable from the families that I see month to month, week to week. Art creates community.
I have seen seniors that don't speak sing, and it's powerful every time I see it. I've had seniors in my class who didn't say a word or even look at me for 6 months, and then suddenly one class where there was a song that they knew that they had learned when they were a child, just like all the children that are in class with us, suddenly sit up and with a beautiful voice start singing along. We're really lucky because in our group we have a lot of seniors who are also very musical, people who were professional singers or led their church choir, professional musicians. And despite the fact that they have dementia and there's things that they don't remember and can't access anymore, they can still access their music. So I always tell my families that when you give a child a lullaby or a song, you're giving them a gift that's going to last them the rest of their lives. And the songs that we sing in class together, our grandfriends sing to our parents, and our parents sing to the children, and those children are going to sing them to their grandchildren someday. So it creates a real legacy of, family and community and things that we can all reference together that they will never lose.
We started about 5 years ago working with CNM to help us quantify our outcome data so that we could see, we could tell you what was happening with our kids. We could see it from here to here, but they helped us start actually doing that. And we are just getting where we have enough data so we can start sharing more of those numbers. But there was a study that the NEA did, I think in 2012, about at-risk youth. And when they were exposed to arts, whatever that was, outside of school on a regular basis, they did 75% better at school, in life, and then in their career path. Like, almost twice the chance, to have this amazing life. And when you look at just the city of Fort Worth, 77% of our kids are considered youth at risk. And that is a lot. And so our executive director started out at CASA and Shakespeare in the Park, and she loved being with the kids, but she noticed that all of the kids that, at that time, it was a long time ago in the 80s, all the kids that were there looked like her. And she wanted to start something where what was being taught was accessible to all of the kids in Fort Worth. And so to this day, about 35 to 40% of our kids are there on scholarship because it matters. So we have things like J. Armstrong Johnson, who was one of our kids. He came on a scholarship, wouldn't have been able to afford it otherwise, and he's now on Broadway. But we also have Alex Kiles, who is on the Hill in Washington, D.C., and driving policy. Taylor Willis and Vanessa Barker that started the Wellman Project were KWC kids. So we just have all of these amazing stories, all of this amazing, not just happening here, but out in the world, and so it's very exciting to see.
Art heals. It's just an echo of what you all are saying. And as an art therapist, I've witnessed it over and over again. Healing communities like Uvalde in South Texas. An art therapist brought the community together to create a mosaic mural, which the community worked together to fabricate every tile, glaze them, install them, and then they hosted, a banquet around it in commemoration of like their own journey through healing in response to tragedy. On a more individual level, I have worked with kids who, a young girl whose anxiety was so oppressive to her that she couldn't speak when she needed to. And through some chalk pastel and a scribble, she found her voice and an image of herself singing. And it was very powerful for both of us because I got to witness it. And then she also got to hear her parents reflect on the progress that they'd seen in her, which also led them to want to dive deeper into their own work as a family. And so there you are. I'll hold on.
What a good glimpse into these different areas of the arts and these different professions. All of you mentioned community. All of you mentioned the fact that the arts enhance community, they build community, they bring out the fact that communities don't exist, like when you were saying the inequality that's there. I wonder, I think if we go back to our heritage, this is a really interesting thought to me. We know about every civilization that has ever existed because of the things they've left behind, right? The things they've made, the things that they've done, the stories that they've told. So our continued existence as a civilization and the quality of that existence depend upon us continuing to come together in these communities and continuing to make ways to do that. So for the second question, I want to transition, again, going back to your specific area, your sphere of influence, your domain. What are some blocks that are there within that sphere that keep us from becoming a community, that keep us from using the arts to its maximum effect to heal communities? Okay.
From a mental health standpoint, I would say stigma is still a major piece of that. That prevents people from seeking care, like preventative care, wellness care, and it also kind of limits understanding as to how, like, the arts, something that we heard before, is perhaps often a little bit misunderstood, how it can be such a valuable part of our healing and our own, like, mental health, and as well funding, just because of politics, yes, that limits funding, and we depend on insurance or Medicaid, and those things kind of sway with the tide. Yes.
Just a couple of things. So we give our kids a voice. Sometimes they don't feel like they have one at home or at school or in other things, and we have a space that is safe for them to just be truly who they are. It's been especially important in Texas recently for our queer kids who feel like their entire community hates them in some cases. They, come after school and they are just fully who they are and accepted and loved. And so that, and then also because we listen to what our kids are saying, we tour original works. We have all these original works, and where those come from are not from the grown-ups. The kids sit around and talk about what is important to them, whether it's an environmental matter or Black Lives Matter or, trans youth, whatever it is. They come in and they talk and they talk and they talk about what's important, and they write. And they give us all this information, and that information then gets put in the hands of professional scriptwriters and musicians and songwriters, and we create a musical out of it. And we tour it all year long to, the show actually opens this Friday, and then I think our first performance after that is at the Youth Pride Fest at Texas Wesleyan. We take it into all of these places where there are going to be kids who need to hear that they matter. And so that's what we do.
Yeah. I would like to kind of piggyback on what you're saying just in another area of my work, because you're right, the state of the arts in Texas right now for our queer community is very fraught. And the number of parents that we have had come into the theater and say, thank you so much for calling my child by their pronouns of their choice, with tears in their eyes, is uncountable. And so the people that don't want them to be included are very loud and very organized. And my wish is that the people who want inclusivity and people to have a place where they feel safe would speak up as loudly as the people who don't. So I just encourage you, if you see something out there, get involved and let people know that it's important to us and we're listening. And in terms of blocks, this is something I feel very strongly about and I talk about all the time. We as human beings are meant to make art and we're meant to make music. We have vocal folds that make music like no other species does, because that was part of our success as a species. It's part of our storytelling. It's part of the way that our communities were built, our safety. And so many people have said to me, oh, I can't sing. No, I can't sing. No, I have a terrible voice. Someone at some point told them they shouldn't sing and they didn't have a good voice. And at some point in our society, it became only acceptable for people to make music who have talent. And that's not accurate and it's not true. Everyone has the ability to make music and they should be. And it's so important. And it doesn't matter whether you have talent or you're good at it or the output is whatever we think it should be. I encourage everybody to explore that artistic side of themselves because it's so important. But yeah.
Well, I will gladly yes and all of these things. You know, and there is truth to the fact that I think societally, at least in the United States and in Texas, I think the arts in general and visual arts specifically for my field are seen as like an icing on the cake rather than part of the cake itself. And an integral part of learning to be human, learning all of the other things that we should be learning about ourselves throughout our lives. So I think that there's an issue with perspective that translates into issues with funding and issues with policy, issues with you know, what the state sees as like the teaks for arts versus what is actually, you know, important. And so teachers are hamstrung a little bit if they are teaching in public schools as to how they are able to approach their assignments. But I will also say nuts and bolts level, as someone who like works for a museum, in museum education, where often we are begging for students, we are begging people to come to the museum. Access to transportation to get to the museum, access to knowledge and awareness for free programming, but also how are you going to sign up for the free programs if you don't have internet at home? How are you going to be focusing on, oh, there are all these cool free resources out there if you're just trying to survive day to day? So I do think that the blocks are, you know, they're intersectional. It's a web of issues that have to be dealt with. And in the meantime, it is a shifting in perspective for well-resourced, you know, museums, for example, in how we become more a part of our communities and broaden the scope of what we think of as like being in museums and learning in museums, so. Yeah, schools, after-school programs, visiting community centers. It differs from institution to institution. We're not regulated like schools, so every institution has its own perspective of what education looks like and what their mission is. So that's the other thing. And I mean, just like any other arts organization, it's not that we can't reach people. It's that if you're talking about like a sustainable system for making sure there is access to arts, there are a lot of nuanced blocks to that come down to where Trinity Metro goes, which comes down to the state of the sidewalks and the state of the roads. It's you pull on one string and 5 more come up.
Thank you all very much. So along the same line of what you were just saying, Allie, I think it's interesting that I really do believe we're all like scientists in whatever it is that we do. a scientist will have that aha moment where they've been working feverishly at something and examining something from all the different sides, and then suddenly an issue or a variable comes to light, which leads to another pathway, which may lead to the ultimate solution. And so you all have described some blocks, and I know we're just getting started. We can't just say that that's the only block and that 5 minutes will suffice us to describe the state of the unions, but you've described the blocks. Now I'd like to hear about an aha that you've had, about one thing that maybe that string, I love that metaphor that you brought up for us, that maybe that string that unravels a really, really larger piece of this fabric. So what's one thing? It might be a collaboration, it might be an idea, a blending of entities. I don't know, I'm sure it's as diverse as you all are, but can you give us an aha, something that may be a trail that can be followed to lead to some solutions?
I will fix the problem.
All right, do it. We're ready.
Well, I will say that something that I have at least noticed in my institution at the Carter and other art museums across the United States in the last several years is once everything went virtual, we had to really rethink how what content is valuable for, in my case, families to use at home in times of need, and what our role can be beyond just like, oh, come to the museum and have a nice buttoned up, we will look at an artwork and we will make a thing and you will go home happy and have lunch, which has never really been my vibe, but now it's really not my vibe. So I think part of the answer from my perspective has been a decentralizing of the role of art so that people have been able to see more clearly how it fits into their daily lives and how necessary it is for building relationships with their children, for their children to express themselves, build their own confidence, develop their fine and gross motor skills, develop their problem-solving skills. So it led to like this flourishing of creativity in how we build relationships with artists, how we produce information, whether it's information on our website or videos or classes or events. It kind of expanded more globally people's ideals of what you can accomplish and what learning goals can look like when you take this is Monet, he was born in this year, kind of off the table. You can put that on the back burner because people, and then maybe use art to more fully understand yourself and others.
Yeah, I think it's like Allie's saying, it doesn't have to be that serious. You know what I mean? It's not that deep. I always say to my family, it's like, we're just singing some songs. And it can be deep, but also taking away some of that fear of I'm not gonna live up to what these standards are. I'm not gonna be able to do it as well, and just laughing and having fun and being like, let's just try this. And if we all sound terrible, who cares? We laugh a lot and try to take a lot of pressure off of our families because I don't know if any of y'all have children, but that 0 to 4 age, it is hard. It's a lot of work and it's exhausting, and moms feel judged and parents feel judged and like they're not doing it right. And so we're just adding in something fun that is secretly changing their lives and their child's trajectory, but they don't have to know that. They can just be there for a good time.
I think one of the things that we started doing really, and I don't know why we didn't think about it earlier, but it happened during the pandemic, is, we were saying all of these things about who we are and who we accept and what we want to be, but who we were serving, even with the scholarships, didn't necessarily look like that. And we had to start becoming very intentional inclusive in what was happening. And so it meant that we couldn't just stay, at 1300 Guindy and do what we're doing. So We've developed partnerships with a dance studio in Como, and we've developed a partnership with LVT Rise, and we've developed a partnership with the Fort Worth Libraries, where we go into some of the libraries that people don't go do programs in. That's actually what we ask them. Which libraries does nobody go to? Those are the ones we want to go talk to kids and do pop-up performances in. So I think just really the collaboration thing, and it's really good in Fort Worth. It can be better, but I think that that's really the biggest thing, because all of us can't do all the things. And so the best thing that we can do is work with each other so that we can reach everyone.
Absolutely. The Art Station was founded out of a need, like a lack of access to art therapy in particular in Fort Worth. We are a very small, like grandma-sized cottage squeezed into Park Place Avenue. And so we only can see so many clients at a time. And so since before I even began there 10 years ago, our staff has been co-locating and collaborating around the Fort Worth and actually Tarrant County. And one place in particular, like Fort Worth ISD has given us access to their campuses, their family resource centers, so we can do individual counseling there. Las Vegas Trail Community Center has been such a gift. But also Crossroads Community Outreach. If anybody knows it, it's right across from JPS on the corner of Hemphill and Allen. And that's been a place where one of my colleagues, Jashley Boatwright, we got to spearhead a pop-up event one summer, which meant that folks who are coming there for groceries or sack lunch pickup or clothes or diapers or dental care on the right day of the week, that they could come and sit at a table with an art therapist and spend time just creating, which we've already heard is often looked at as like a luxury, right? When you're in the midst of just surviving your day to day. And for a lot of those folks, it's kind of moment to moment. And so, like, it's just through the collaboration and the connections within our community that we were able to grow a community at this like table of 8 people, which turned into a community art project for the whole center. We spent all summer pouring paint onto canvases and creating larger works that turned into an art show there at the Taste Project, where the folks who were participating, who were living kind of from day to day, got to see their artwork hung on the wall, and they got to choose if they wanted to sell it or talk to anybody about it. But it was just like the most beautiful kind of evolution of what it can be when we come together and we collaborate to create access, because I think that's kind of like one of our main things is that we have to meet people where they're at. And from my perspective as a therapist, I have to meet them where they're at in their need in that moment.
Excellent. Thank you all very much. As we continue to enter into a landscape where programs are being cut and programs are being deemed as not, public programs are being deemed as not effective or not meeting standards. I'm sorry, you just like got me off. But does that mean that we have a certain amount of time left? How are we? We have what? About 10 minutes. Okay, well, let me pivot then. I just really quickly, I want you to be able to tell us what's one thing that you've seen that art provides for your clients and for human beings in general that nothing else can do? Like just period, elevator speech, one word, one phrase. This is what it can do that nothing else in the world can do.
Art in therapy can give us a safe way to access things that we are suppressing or holding in and bring them out in a way that we can give them meaning and maintain a sense of containment. There you go.
Very well said.
I think that our kids can deliver messages in ways that grown-ups can't. I was joking earlier, one of the things I was doing before I rushed over here was we're doing guerrilla marketing for a show that we've got coming up Friday, and when we do that and go to all the little neighborhoods and hang up our posters, we send the kids, in to ask if they can hang up their poster, because they're not going to say no to the kids. But the thing is these kids are up there and they are delivering, this message, and of course it's beautifully, the light's gorgeous and the set's gorgeous and all this, but they are delivering these messages in words that grown-ups can understand. And it's funny because I try to explain, what it is all the time, and everybody's like, cool, yeah, good for you, I'm glad you're doing that. But when I can finally get someone to a show, they walk out and stand in the lobby and they say, I had no idea. I'm like, I've been trying to tell you. And it was funny, a good friend of mine named LaShonda, I finally got her to come see a show a couple of years ago, and she's just herself and got in the lobby and said, oh my God, those kids are as woke as F. They are, thank you, but also we're a G-rated company, so don't say that again. Adults are hearing things that they're not hearing from the news and they're not hearing from their friends, and our kids are able to get a message across and they finally understand it, and that's amazing.
Well, I guess there's a few things that can do this, so it's not a perfect answer, but music making and community music making provides regulation for our nervous system, and there's been lots of research at this point that has shown that groups of people making music together, their heartbeats actually start to beat at the same time. And a parent singing to their child releases endorphins both for the parent and for the child. So just in terms of like physical and mental health, it's a great way to get some of that in.
Okay. Artful quality time creates confident, tight-knit families and eventually engaged citizens.
So now it is time for questions. Are there any questions from the audience for our panelists? Okay. Front, Wesley, is that right?
This is for everyone, including our moderator. What is your earliest memory of an arts thing that you can conjure up right now?
Oh, what a cool question.
I ate an apple covered in paint when I was 2.
I probably did that too. I just don't remember. I come from a very musical family. Well, my dad is very musical, and so he always would play the guitar for us, and we would sing together and everything. So I have lots of memories of that.
I know y'all are going to be shocked by this because I work at a theater place, but we had tickets to Casa. Kids, my dad would take us on Saturdays and we'd go watch Casa perform. And, every time a musical or anything new would come out, like my poor parents had to watch my sister and I perform Annie in front of the fireplace at least 72 times. So, lots of those.
There are photos of me in the tumbling outfits, but I don't remember any of that as clearly as I remember going to see The Wizard of Oz at Casa. The flying monkeys took my breath away. So,
My dad was a musician, and so I remember one of my first concerts, just feeling the bass guitar, the echoing of it in the bottom of my belly. Good question. Next question. Yes.
I don't have a question. I just wanted to thank everybody that helps the kids because it helps my community with deal with problems, and I appreciate what all y'all do. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. I thought I saw someone else over here on the side. Yes.
I was just going to say, what is something you have coming up that we should all go to?
Awesome question.
the Art Station has our annual fundraiser coming up in 2 weeks on October 4th. It's called Public Figures, Private Artists, where local folks who may not be recognized as an artist have put their artwork up for sale to benefit our agency and our cause to help fund art therapy and counseling services for folks who might not have access to it. So come on out.
I think I already plugged it, but just in case you didn't hear me. Our touring show this year called All In opens at the W.E. Scott Theater on Friday, September 29th at 7:30. You guys should come and see it. It's pretty awesome. We're woke as something.
Our program is obviously closed for the residents and everything. But if there's any high school teachers out here who do theater or English, or you know one who does, at Stage West, we have a playwriting in schools program. Our playwright for youth and residents, Rob Vasquez, goes out to lots of amazing schools out there. He'll be at Northside and does playwriting with the students K to 12. So I have a few slots left in that. So if you're interested, let me know and I can hook you up. It's grant funded, it's free.
Well, I think I would first and foremost be drawn and quartered if I didn't mention Party on the Porch at the Carter, September 30th. So go see a play, and then the next day come to Party on the Porch. It's going to be really fun. It's free. Tickets online. And I will also say that all family programs at the Carter are free. If you've got children 5 and younger, come join us for one of my monthly programs. And we have ages 6 to 12 and their grown-ups can come to Family Workshop. Lots of really fun family programs throughout the year. And you get to come and make mischief with me. So what's not to love?
Awesome. Wrap it up. But what if I don't rap? Is that okay?
We're here all night, folks.
Okay. So I do want to say just one thing in closing. It's my belief that the arts, and I think everyone here believes that the arts are necessary. They're not something that we should have to rally for or that we should have to make a case for. They're as necessary to survival as shelter, as food, as clothing, as sex, as family. And I hope that we can see, as a result of today's panel, we're all in diverse areas, and probably all of us probably come from diverse walks of life, but do you realize that all of us create? All of us have access to and utilize the creative process every day of our lives. There's a dilemma in front of us. We propose some solutions to that dilemma. We get stuff and we mix it around and move it around to try to solve that dilemma. We come up with a proposition, with a result. We test it again. We go back. That's in how we dress, when we wake up and we adorn ourselves in a certain way. That's in how we organize our spaces. That's in how we make a sculpture. I mean, do you see that we're all human beings and the nature of our existence is creation? It might not be big A art as a sculpture or a performance or a spoken word, but it is little a art. It is creation. So in light of that, I'd like for you to just kind of fortify your belief in the necessity of art. And to broaden your understanding of it and to publish that aloud in your walks of life and in your spheres of influence. Thank each one of you for your expertise, for your heart and your soul in this work, and for the way that your stories are going to impact what we do and how we carry the arts forward. Appreciate it.